Last time on the Skip and Josh podcast.
To me, I don't see the equivalent between flipping a bat and hitting a batter with a pitch, because hitting a batter with a baseball that you're throwing at 90 miles an hour could seriously injure that player. Flipping your bat doesn't injure anybody at all. Yeah,
It injures your delicate ego.
You're listening to the Skip and Josh podcast with Skip Sherman and Josh Obadia.
I'm Josh, normally in Toronto.
And I'm Skip in Montreal.
In today's episode, home run trots
A top prospect makes his debut.
and blown calls in the NHL playoffs.
But first, an idiotic tweet.
Okay, Skip, so just to let the listeners know, I'm actually in Montreal right now, not in Toronto. I gotta tell you, that flight from the Midwest was a killer for me. I'm exhausted.
That's an inside joke. We don't have to explain it. Maybe I'll put up an article on our website to explain that to people.
Speaking of explaining things, I asked you something last show about Mike Wilbon, and you were going to do some research and get back to me. What did he tweet that everyone got so angry about?
Yeah. So I did do the research right after we finished recording last time. I mean, do you really want me to tell you? It's about the Masters and golf. So Wilbon was on a flight when the Masters was going on, because they pushed up the tee time and they started early for the Masters. I don't know if you're aware, because they were worried about the weather. So they started extra early. Like the Masters usually would end at like 5, 6 p.m., but it ended like at 1, 2, because they teed off really early. So by the time he got home, he found out who won, but he didn't see any of it. So he wanted to watch it, and he was very excited because the local CBS affiliate in Washington, D.C., where he lives, was showing the replay of the entire Masters. They were showing the whole 4 or 5 hour telecast again. So he started to watch it, but then the local affiliate cut away because they had an emergency weather situation in that area, a hurricane, and they cut away for the hurricane coverage. So he tweeted how angry he was at the CBS, and he tagged people and stuff saying, you know, basically like, why are you showing this? We don't want to see this. People want to watch the replay of the Masters. No one cares about the hurricane coverage. So there's like 2,000 comments basically saying how much of an idiot he is, because clearly the hurricane coverage is a little bit more important than the Masters if you live in that area, which people do who are watching on that channel.
100%, you're 100% right. It's way more important, especially because it was a replay of the Masters. Exactly. If it was live, I might understand.
Yeah.
But it wasn't even live. It was a replay.
It was the replay. And, you know, like if you look in all the comments, are like, people died in the hurricane. You know, people are relying on the TV coverage to know like what they have to do. Do we have to evacuate? Like, can we stay in our homes? Can we not stay in our homes? And of course, he's just being an idiot. So there's the answer to your question about Mike Wilbon.
So, you know, even though I love the show PTI, and even though I love the Tony Kornheiser podcast, both Tony and Mike, they're starting to lose it.
They are. They've lost it.
It's like they shouldn't be allowed to talk anymore, either of them.
It's getting, I think it's getting, we're approaching that level.
Oh yeah, no, soon we won't be allowed to talk.
All right, so how do you really want to start the show?
Well, that's how I want to start the show, but
The National Hockey League.
a lot of things have happened since the last time we spoke.
Yeah, we had hockey, Game 7, the Leafs, right?
Forget about that.
Oh.
I want to talk about the Sharks and the Golden Knights.
Okay, let's do that.
Because first of all, how do you blow a 3-goal lead with 11 minutes left in the game?
Well, you get a 5-minute penalty, and you can't kill You can't kill a penalty, right?
So that penalty should have been a 2-minute minor, not a 5-minute major, first of all.
Yeah.
Yes, there was blood, but the blood was caused accidentally because of the awkward way that he fell.
No, the NHL has admitted that the refs made a mistake.
Yeah. So you can't let the outcome of the play determine how severe the penalty is.
That's true.
If it's a cross-check, it's a cross-check.
Yeah.
I can cross-check you and you fall down, it's a 2-minute penalty.
Yeah.
I can cross-check you and you don't fall down, it's still a 2-minute penalty.
I know.
So, but having said that, you should be able to kill off a penalty.
Yeah.
You know, like, I mean, it's not like it happened in the first period and you got all kinds of time to come back. It's the third period, there's 11 minutes left.
Yeah.
And Vegas, I thought until then, was a good team.
Yeah.
You know,
I think they are a good team. They either lost their mind on that penalty kill, got completely flustered. I don't know what happened, but like 4 goals on one 5-minute penalty. Vegas has every right to say they got screwed. Mm-hmm. It was a bad call. Right? It was a bad call. But if you are the championship team that you claim that you want to be, you need to not allow 4 goals in 5 minutes. I'm sorry.
You see, if something like that happened to the Washington Capitals, I wouldn't be so surprised because they're notorious for choking.
Yeah.
But Vegas, in their entire career, they've made it to the Stanley Cup final every time.
All they do is rise to the occasion, right?
Yeah.
This is the first time that they've shrunk in the moment.
Right. The other thing, so that third period was amazing. So not only do they score 4 goals in 4 minutes to take the lead, but then with like 30 seconds left, Vegas ties it up on a crazy play.
Yeah, I mean, at that point, like, everything's even. I know they got screwed by the call, but we're going into overtime. Anybody can win the game.
Exactly.
Go and win the game.
Right.
Go and win the game.
And
right?
this leads into another Game 7, the Boston Toronto Game 7.
Yeah, well, that
so,
was over really before it started.
I didn't actually see any of that game because I was actually at the Blue Jays game that night.
Very nice.
At the last minute, a friend of mine texted me saying that she had great tickets to the game, and do I want to go? So I went.
Very nice.
But what bugs me is I'm not a Leaf fan nor a Bruin fan.
Right.
But the day after, and even now, still today,
I love the day after.
everyone, all the fans and all the media in Toronto, they're all complaining like, oh, this guy didn't get enough ice time, or, you know, he should have been playing on a different line with different wingers, or it's Babcock's fault for not coaching properly. I have to tell you something. All these people need to calm down, because once you get to a game 7, it doesn't matter which team is better. It doesn't matter which team had more points in the regular season. It doesn't matter which team has home ice advantage. Yeah. Once you get to a game 7, you might as well just flip a coin.
Yeah. But I mean, in this series, in that game 7, and mostly in the series, the big weakness for the Leafs was like their goalie got outplayed. Freddie Anderson in game 7 wasn't sharp, and Rask was.
But the games that the Leafs won, Freddie Anderson was great.
No, for sure he was.
So, I mean, you can't expect somebody to be great every single game.
Yeah. I tuned in at noon on the next day because I was like, I wanted to see what was going to happen on like Leafs Lunch, you know, which is like the show on TSN with Andy Petrillo. And also at the same time, they have Hockey Central at noon on Sportsnet, right? So I wanted to see like, what are they going to be talking about? Like, what it's obviously going to be like a Leafs debrief, right? And the blame's going around, right? Like you said, it's Babcock. The name that I heard getting most of the blame was Jake Gardiner, you know? And when the people that are blaming Babcock are basically saying like, they were looking at time on the ice, right? Because when they were down by 2 goals with like 10 minutes left in the game, somehow Matthews and Tavares were not on the ice, and they had the third and fourth lines out there, which is a legit beef, right? But I mean, your coach is an extension.
That's something you would expect Claude Julien to do.
It is. But, like, the coach is an extension of your team, you know? Like, you've hired this guy because he's supposedly the best, right? So, the coach's decision is part of what's going to make or break your season sometimes, you know, good or bad.
Yeah, I mean, and there's talk that he might not be back for next year. They might fire him, whatever. Yeah. You know, firing him would be a mistake. I don't know if he's the best coach on the planet,
but he's
certainly not the worst coach on the planet.
There's something to be said for like continuity.
Of course.
Yeah.
And I've said this 100 times. When a team wins, the coach gets too much credit, and when a team loses, the coach gets too much blame.
Yeah.
I mean, he's not on the ice shooting the puck, making the saves, blocking the shots.
Yeah. He kind of threw Anderson under the bus a little bit, because I don't know if you saw his press conference. He said like, I don't have the direct quote. I could look it up, but he said something like, they had their scoring chances and they capitalized and we didn't. It's sort of saying like, you know, if Anderson would have stopped a couple of those shots, maybe the game was different. Maybe it would have been. But I mean, at one point, I think the Leafs had like 12 shots on goal after the first 2 periods. You know, like 6 shots per period. That's not good. You know, that's just not good. It's not going to get it done. It's going to be an interesting offseason in Toronto for the Leafs, because they've been so patient during this rebuild, or whatever you want to call it, like the assembling of this amazing talent that they have, and they finally added Tavares, and like they've got like this great group of like young players that all came up together. And they've been so patient. Are they gonna suddenly like lose their patience and start making weird decisions because they lost now again? I don't know.
Well, now this year Matthews and Marner are going to get big contracts. So they're not going to be able to. It's going to be difficult for them to stay under the cap and keep all their existing players.
I feel like Nylander's going to get a lot of the blame.
Well, he didn't have such a great season, but people are saying that he wasn't put in the position to succeed.
Yeah, I agree. And Kadri also is taking the blame, even though he wasn't on the ice. But, you know, because they needed him on the ice, and he wasn't there, and because he lost his mind again.
The thing is, so they're talking about like, oh, will Kadri be back? Will they trade him? The truth of the matter is, Kadri's nothing special. Like
No, but a lot of teams could like a Kadri.
If you try to trade Kadri, you're not going to get that much for him. I don't think.
You're not. You're
so
right.
it's Toronto seems to think that he's like a very integral piece,
Well,
and maybe he is. To
every
them.
team likes their guys,
right?
Yeah.
But like you try to trade him, you're not going to get that much back for him.
Especially with like the fact that he just got suspended in the playoffs. Right. Teams are looking at this guy like, well, I don't know if we want him on our team. He has this like cloud over him. So it's kind of, I don't know.
So I complain about the NHL a lot, the playoff format, the scheduling, but actually I want to give the NHL props for one thing. I was very pleased to see that the second round started right away.
It's the exact opposite of the NBA.
Yes.
Because the Celtics, who are the team that I follow and I want to watch all their games, they had a week off. Literally a whole week off in between their closing out Indiana in Game 4 and Game 1 of their series against the Bucks, which started today. It's like, what the hell?
Yeah, so I was happy to see that the second round of the NHL started the very next day. I was happy about that. And then, but one thing that bugs me...
Things that bug me?
This doesn't have to do with the NHL, but... I don't know if you noticed, the Islanders are playing right now, Game 2 of their series.
Wow, we had it on TV.
But did you know that Game 2 is in Brooklyn, but Game 1 was in Long Island?
Oh, is that because they have an agreement of sharing the arenas? And
I don't know what it is, but I don't like the fact that they play in two different places. And I think if you ask the Islanders, their coach, their players,
they want to play in Long Island.
Of course, because their fans like to go out there, and the fans are like almost right on top of you, and it's a huge home ice advantage for them.
And they don't have a car parked in the third row.
That's right. So they can fit more people in the building. Absolutely. I forgot about that. Thank you.
I love that car parked, taking up like 20 seats. They've got a car.
20, maybe more.
Yeah, maybe more. Where do you want to go next? I didn't take any notes this week, really. I knew we wanted to talk about hockey. I thought this episode today was going to be all about Toronto.
No. We're not talking about Toronto because I don't care. We're going to go to baseball now.
Major League Baseball.
Let's do it. Well, so we are going to Toronto then.
No. Do you watch any baseball highlights during the week?
I haven't really been like on top of it this year.
Okay, so Rhys Hoskins hit a home run this week. Did you see this?
I heard about this.
And it was the slowest home run trot I've ever seen in my life.
They counted it, 34 seconds.
Right. He took forever. And normally I think it's like half that, right? I have no problem with him taking his time rounding the bases because the night before, they almost killed him. Like, seriously, what's going on in baseball? I thought this changed. I thought they finally came to their senses last year, and people were sane, but they're not.
They're not.
Like, you can't take a baseball and throw it at 90 miles an hour at someone's head.
You can't.
And if a batter hits a home run off of you, he is doing his job, what he is paid to do.
Yeah, just like your job is to strike him out or get him out.
So if you don't like that, don't hit him the next time or hit the batter that's up after him.
Get him out.
Get him out.
Yeah.
And here in this case, though, they tried to hit him the night before. He hadn't even hit the home run yet. So I don't know what was going on with those two teams.
What's going to happen now that he did this 34-second home run trot? Don't you think next time he comes up, he's going to get hit?
Well,
It's never going to end.
What happened the next time he came up? I don't know what happened.
I don't know.
Did he come up again?
Well, maybe it's the next time they play.
Right.
Next series might be in months.
But it seems like once a week we have a different bat flip or home run trot or something to talk about.
Yeah. It's too bad because it's kind of stupid.
It's very stupid.
You want to talk about the debut of Vlad Jr. in Toronto and all the hype leading up to it?
Okay, so since you brought it up, this annoys me. This could be what bugs me.
You're kidding me? Boy, are you bugging me, man? I'm gonna nail. Ooh, I'm getting bugged now. Whoa, man.
Because ever since the Leafs got eliminated and the Jays announced that they were calling up Vlad Jr., that's all you heard about. Any television station you turned on, any website you went to, any radio station you turned on, it's all you heard about. And I get that this guy is the top prospect in the minor leagues. I get that.
Yeah.
But calm down, people.
Yeah.
He might be great. You never know.
Yeah.
Or he might struggle at the beginning. You never know. Yeah. But he hasn't done anything yet.
Right.
And even if he's as great as they say he's going to be, which you can't predict these things.
You can't.
Because you've known a million prospects in a million different sports who were supposed to be Hall of Famers and they were busts.
Yeah.
And I hope that doesn't happen to him. But you don't know what he's going to do. But let's assume he does perform at a Hall of Fame level.
Yeah.
He's one player.
Yeah.
It's not like basketball. If it almost seems as if the fans are expecting the Jays to win the World Series this year. I'm exaggerating a bit, but like, I think they were showing batting practice live on television the other day.
You texted me on Friday afternoon, and you're like, they're showing Vlad Jr.'s batting practice. It's reached craziness, right?
You know what it reminded me of? When in the Olympics, when the NHLers were playing hockey in the Olympics, they were showing the practice live. Yeah. You know, that's exactly what it reminded me of.
That's silly. But, you know, I think who's the GM of the Jays? Atkins, right?
Yes, Russ Atkins.
So he came out that night on Friday and said, look, you know, I think he was trying to calm the fans' expectations because, like, he brought up the example of Mike Trout. Like, Mike Trout is, like, the best player in baseball, but the Angels haven't won with him, right? So they need Vlad Jr., but they also need, you know, 12 other guys who some of them who they may have in the minors. You know, they have Bo Bichette and Biggio's kid also, right? Like, so they're stocked with the former baseball players, kids who are our top prospects, but like they need them all to come up together. You know, right now the Jays are not a good team. You know, even with Vlad Guerrero, they're not a good team. And by the way, he looks okay. His swing looks really good. I'm not a scout. The thing that worries me as an onlooker to see him is he's fat.
I had that in my notes. I was just going to say, like, I didn't realize how fat this kid is.
Yeah.
Like, he's not an old guy.
No.
He's not, he doesn't seem like he's in good shape.
No, and when you're 22 and you're already this size, that makes me wonder, what is he going to look like when he's 30? You know, like, how big is he going to be? Like, he's definitely going to be a DH. Like, there's no question about it. In 2 years or 3 years, he's going to be a full-time DH. He'll have to be because he's going to be too fat. But then I was thinking about the flip side, because there are success stories of fat players. And I'm sorry if I'm like fat shaming people, you know, but like Miguel Cabrera was never looked like an athlete. He always was big, right? Mm-hmm. And he's had a crazy career and he's been durable. He hasn't really been injured. Then on the flip side, you have a guy like Prince Fielder who was really fat from the moment he stepped on the field. And he's been up and down, right? Like he's had some good years, but that like it didn't last. And I don't know. It's like I think the Jays really need to try to make sure he stays in shape. You know?
Well, you didn't even mention David Ortiz.
Well, David Ortiz is the classic fat guy, but like they realized right away, like he had to be a DH. Like, you know?
Now Vlad Jr. isn't as big as David Ortiz, no. But
He'll be heavier.
I was just surprised to see how big he was. And then in his first game, he got a double, his first ever hit. I think it was the 9th inning or late in the game. And they pitch ran for him. Yeah. So they don't have confidence in his speed.
Yeah.
Obviously.
Well, I don't think he's fast. I mean, everybody's going to assume, oh, yeah, he's like his father, right? Because his father could do it all, right? His father wasn't a crazy fast runner, but he was like a base stealer. But like he was fast, you know? Like he could run the bases.
Vlad Sr. was skinny, actually.
Well, like at the beginning. Yeah. Yeah. Then he was never, even at the end when he was heavy, he wasn't like... He could still move, you know?
Funny enough, he was at the game. They showed him in the press box. Yeah. He actually looks like he's in pretty good shape. He looks like if he had to play today, he could like pick up a bat and hit a homer today.
I'm sure he actually could, by the way. Did you see who was in the box with him, in the press box?
Was it Anakin Slade?
Yeah!
What's Anakin Slade doing there? Like, how is this guy getting his 15 minutes of fame? We're supposed to be done like years ago, this guy.
Super Expos fan, I guess, right?
Yeah. But there are a million Super Expos fans, you know?
Maybe he knows Vlad personally. Who knows? Well, they tweeted that morning, the Jays even, and Vlad Jr., he showed up to the game, to the Rogers Center with an Expos jersey, with his dad's Expos jersey on. You know?
Yeah, I saw that. I'm wondering if it's an actual jersey that Vlad Sr. actually wore, or just a replica that they...
Either way, it's still cool, right?
Yeah.
I mean, he was born in Montreal, the kid.
No, I know. Does that mean, by the way, can he play for Team Canada in the Olympics?
He 100%. He's definitely.
But he's probably not going to.
No, but he's Canadian. Like, if you're born in Canada, you're a Canadian citizen.
Right, but if he does play in the Olympics, he's probably. Dominican. I'm not saying he's going to, but I'm talking like the World Baseball Classic, the tournament that you love, the World Baseball Classic.
It's just extended spring training. It is. It's split squad games. They take the spring training and they just say, oh, we're not going to go by teams today. We're going to go by countries. And they shuffle the team. It's like their own little draft, and they make new teams, and they have more spring training.
You're no fun. So, speaking of Expos fans, like, because you mentioned Anakin Slade, this isn't even in my notes, but another Expos fan, Jonah Carey.
Yeah.
Why do I bring him up? you and I were talking about a show called Brockmire.
Yeah.
Which you've never watched.
No, but I looked it up and I'm going to watch it.
It's a good show. I've seen the first 2 seasons. Apparently there's a 3rd season. I don't know if season 3 has started yet.
Right.
But the reason I mention this is because Jonah Carey is in one of the episodes of Brockmire.
Very nice.
So
I saw Jonah Carey on Sportsnet a couple days before Vlad's game because they were interviewing him, and he's their go-to guy, for baseball stuff. But
even though I think he lives in Colorado.
He does, yeah.
So this has nothing to do with anything, but I'm sure you've noticed this a long time ago, but I just want to state it for the record.
Yeah.
It's interesting that hockey's a winter sport.
Yeah.
But the best part of the hockey season is played in the summer.
That's true.
And baseball is a summer sport. But the best part of the baseball season is played
in
the fall/winter when it's cold.
Yeah.
So you would think that they would somehow correct this, because you don't want to be at a baseball game at the World Series freezing your ass off.
No, but maybe it's going to self-correct, right? Because like we said, the climate's moving, right?
That's true.
Seasons are moving. They're not when they're supposed to be. So I think once they get to October, now they play baseball almost in November, maybe it's not going to be as cold anymore.
You're right, because it's actually almost May now.
Yeah.
And it's freezing here.
It's ridiculous.
And I think it's freezing in Toronto too. I'm not there.
Just to tell people, it was 3 degrees today or something here in Montreal. 3 degrees Celsius.
But it felt like -2.
Thanks for the weather updates.
The National Basketball Association.
You want to talk any Raptors?
We can talk Raptors. I know nothing about the NBA.
I didn't know if you watched the first game, and it seems like they got that monkey off their back. With the last time we talked about the Raptors, it was all about how they lost game 1, and then they've won every game since. Very convincingly.
So I haven't watched any Raptors games.
Yeah.
I will say that I was surprised that they won game 1 of round 2, because they always lose game 1.
Right. But he's so good, Kawhi Leonard. He's just so good. Honestly, they are way better than the Sixers. They're going to, it's easy to, I don't want to make sweeping statements after one game, because the home field in the NBA is huge, obviously, right? So when the series does go back to Philadelphia, the Sixers have a better chance. But, Kawhi is just, they couldn't stop him yesterday. He had 45, 46 points. They couldn't stop him at all.
Yeah, I listen, you're right that in the NBA, home court it means a lot.
Yeah.
I don't know what's going to happen. All I know is what I've heard from all the experts is that the Sixers have the best starting 5 in the league other than Golden State.
Yeah, they do have a great starting 5, but they have no bench at all, right?
But the other thing is that, what's his name? Joel Embiid, you never know. He's kind of fragile. He's being held together with duct tape.
He is. He has a knee injury that they're not talking about. They don't know. No one knows. It's top secret, Area 51, government, CIA, redacted papers. If you want to find out what's really going on with Joel Embiid, you need security clearance. But he is there is something wrong with his knee, but he's still playing. So I don't know.
But if he's not at 100%,
no, they're screwed.
They're kind of screwed
because the rest of their starting 5 is good, but he's the star. He's the star. Yeah.
So anyway, we'll see what happens in game 2.
That was the NBA segment.
I can't talk about the NBA. Well, you can talk about it, but I don't know what to say. No. I was just surprised to find out that Houston finished 4th in the Western Conference. I thought they for sure would finish 2nd.
You never know, right?
So and now they have to play Golden State in round 2 instead of potentially playing them in round 3.
Yeah. I told you my theory about that, though, what people are saying, that it's better for them because Chris Paul's healthy now, and if they were face Golden State in the next round, he'd probably be injured. So now at least they're getting them play them when Chris Paul's healthy.
Bracket challenge.
So I'm looking at this this bracket challenge you have up on your screen.
Yeah.
And so I entered the NHL.com bracket challenge. And of course, of the first round matchups, all 8 of them, I got 1 correct.
Oh, well, it's ridiculous what happened in the NHL. There was an article that was forwarded to me this week by Mark in Philadelphia. It's from the website 538. I read a little bit of it, but it's a really good read. And it's called, Apparently the NHL Regular Season is Irrelevant. And you know how 538 works. You don't go on that website that much. It's not journalist. It's not written stuff. It's written, but it's all based on numbers. Everything they do has statistical analysis. So they show you how all the stats work against it, and everything doesn't make sense at all, right? Because what's the regular season supposed to show us? It's supposed to show us who's good and who's not so good, right? Obviously, 1s are really good and 8s are okay, and that's not what happened, Yeah.
So yes, it's very interesting. The regular season seems to be quite meaningless, to be honest.
Yeah.
And I think teams might look at this and say, why do we bust our balls to try to finish in first place overall when it doesn't mean anything?
But the thing is, you do have to play well in the regular season in the NHL. Just make the playoffs. You can't take the playoffs for granted because you're not going to make it. Oh,
100%. Look, for example, Montreal Canadiens.
Yeah.
They were trying their hardest all season long, and they couldn't even make the playoffs.
Yeah.
But so for the second round, they had this. You can redo your picks for the second round.
You get a do-over.
Yeah. So literally, when I went to make my picks, I had a quarter in my hand, and I just flipped a coin. I flipped it for every round, for every series.
Yeah.
I'm like, so this is heads and this is tails.
Right.
And I did that for.
So who do you have?
It ended up being, I'm sorry to say, it ended up being San Jose versus Boston in the Stanley Cup final.
Those are the favorites, so you're probably going to lose.
Well, but again, I didn't pick them. The quarter picked them.
The quarter. Blame it on the quarter.
I will.
What if it's like Columbus versus Dallas?
Actually, what I'm hoping for is Islanders versus Blues.
Yeah, Islanders are, the Blues have a long history, but there's some really bad TV matchup potential, right? The teams that are left are not the sexy teams,
You know what it should be? Jim Fanning would love this matchup.
Yeah.
Blues versus Blue Jackets.
Jim Fanning?
Yeah, because remember Jim Fanning would have his matchup on the radio.
Blues, Blue Jackets?
Well, there was one.
There's my notebook for today.
Well, once he did Reds versus Red Sox.
Yeah.
So this is the same thing.
It was called Jim's matchup,
yes,
right? Yeah,
yes.
Yeah. Oh my God, I totally forgot that. I think I blocked that out of my head. Just bad memories.
Sorry to remind you about it.
Yeah, but there are some really weird looking matchup potential, right? Columbus. I mean, the city. What's the population of Columbus? It's definitely the smallest city of all the cities that are still around. It's tiny, right? It's a college town.
I don't know how big it is, but did you notice? And I was going to tell you this before round 2 started. I think every team that went to a game 7 in round one, won the first game in round 2.
It makes sense though, because people would say, "Oh, they're tired and they're spent," but they're not. They're
raring to go.
They've reached that extra gear, right? I know.
And the teams that had a long break, they all lost game 1 of round 2.
That's why people are blaming on Tampa that they had a long break for 2 months before the playoffs started, basically, right?
But they did have a 3-0 lead in game 1.
That's right.
So, anyway.
Yeah, that's right. They did have a 3-0 lead in game 1. That may have changed everything, right? Imagine they hold on to that lead.
Not only did they have a 3-0 lead, but they had a few chances to make it 4-0.
Yeah.
Golden opportunities to make it 4-0 in that game.
Yeah.
And that would have changed everything.
Right now, Columbus is a scary looking team, to be honest, because of Bobrovsky. They have a good team, right? Their skaters are good. They've got well balanced. They're big and fast. But Bobrovsky is the wild card, right? Because he had a really kind of lousy regular season, except for the last month where he played great and got them into the playoffs, and now he's just continued it. And we all know what he can do when he's really good, right? He's one of the better goalies in the league. So I like Columbus's chances, to be honest.
He is one of the better goalies in the league, and actually he might be the best goalie left in the playoffs. But I don't know if he can carry the team all the way to a Stanley Cup. I mean, it would stun me if Columbus was in the Stanley Cup final. Well, but then again, it shouldn't stun me because there's all kinds of crazy things going on this year.
They have to get by Boston, who's probably the best team left. But yeah, I don't know. It's funny how we started talking about hockey and then we came back to it, right?
Yeah, I don't know how that happened.
Me too.
Because I just noticed this on your screen.
Yeah, no, that's good. It's good stuff. Before we sign off, remember, you can listen and subscribe to new and archived episodes of the Skip and Josh podcast wherever you listen to podcasts, including Apple Podcasts, Stitcher, Google Play, iHeartRadio, and of course, Spotify. If you listen to the show through Apple Podcasts, please leave us a review. We would love to hear from you via email, skipandjoshshow@gmail.com, via Twitter @skipandjosh, or by liking and following our Facebook page. As always, you can get all the links to everything I just talked about on our website, skipandjosh.com.
We leave you with this.
Did you hear this story about Pedro Strop on the Cubs?
What about him?
His car got stolen before a game.
Okay.
So he was literally at Wrigley Field. He got there late. And the police came to Wrigley Field to do the police report with him. And it was a couple of hours before the game was going to start, and he had started warming up or prepared everything, and he told the cops, look, guys, I got to go. I might have to pitch today. I got to go get ready. And they were like, okay. And then he came in that game and got a save. But, I mean, they never found his car.
That's impressive that he was able to block out all the stuff going on and still focus and get a save. Good for him.
Good for him.
I'm proud of him.
Yeah, you're proud of him.
I am.
Yeah.
One thing I wanted to mention, and you hear this during the playoffs more than the regular season, and it happens in hockey and baseball and basketball and sometimes football. Some player will like score a goal or break some sort of record, but like it's not a league record. It's just a record like he broke a San Jose Sharks record or he broke a Columbus Blue Jackets record. Like, who cares about team records? Especially if it's a team that's only been around for 10 years. It means nothing. I don't even know why they bother telling us these things.
It's true, actually, right? Because San Jose Sharks record for most of this is like maybe whatever it is. Could be the best of any team. It could be by far the worst, right? Because there's teams that have been around for literally 100 years, right? So we didn't talk at all about the NFL draft.
Because I didn't watch any of it, and I'm very proud of myself for that.
I did watch for 2 minutes. Maybe next episode we'll do like a mini draft recap. Although there's really not much to say other than the only takeaway from the draft for anybody should be, if you're a New York Giants fan, sorry, it's going to be a long year again.
Didn't they pick a Duke quarterback?
They did, yeah. That's all you need to know, right?
So, one thing about the draft, it was on ABC.
Yeah, they showed
during prime time,
yeah.
like on a regular television network.
Because that's how much cachet like the NFL has, right? It's like anything the NFL does, they're going to televise it, right?
Speaking of the NFL, the schedule came out like about 10 days ago, and I'm sure you listened to the Tony Kornheiser show the next day where they had Kevin Sheehan on.
Yeah.
Kevin Sheehan, apparently, the day before the schedule comes out, he does a mock schedule.
I know, where they're predicting what the schedule's going to be. Like, how stupid is that? But that's the NFL. That's the power of the NFL. People are obsessed.
Kevin Sheehan was very proud of himself because he got 4 games correct.
Yeah, okay.
His record up until this year was 2.
4 games correct. I mean, they know who they're going to play. They just don't know the order. Like you said, last year, it's just a calendar.
Yeah. They announced the calendar.
Congratulations. All right. I'll talk to you next time. Next time, we're going to be back to being in different cities.
Correct.
All right. Talk to you next time.